Joining us now, former state senator Marty Williams. How you doing, Marty?
Doing great, John. Good morning.
So, look, don't the Democrats have a right to fight the Trump agenda as the loyal opposition? Let's just start there. They got elected also. They got elected on a different platform, I think, where their core values are in agreement with Trump. We'd expect them to be there. When they're not, we'd expect them to fight, the loyal fight, the fair way. But at the end of the day, they're in the minority, so it doesn't matter, right?
Well, I guess it matters because unless you can keep your caucus completely in line, which occasionally that doesn't happen when right trumps process, sometimes you lose it like that. But I've always felt like when I was in the Senate, my obligation was to my constituents,
right?
And I wouldn't always say that it was a majority of my constituents that felt this particular way, because we really have no way of knowing that day to day. But you do have a feel and an obligation to serve based on your principles. And if you feel like what's being legislated is bad for your constituents, then you should be fighting it. And that's your job to do so.
That's what I think. So I think we're on the same page on that, Marty Williams. Let's get to the Atlantic Coast Pipeline. We've been talking about this for some time. Everybody knows I never met a pipeline I didn't like. But the bottom line is we're getting close. There's still pockets of opposition. You've been on the forefront of this battle, Marty Williams, for a long time. What do we have to do now to get this thing done?
Well, we're going to have to rely on the agencies to strip the politics out of the agencies that are doing the reviews, to strip the politics out of it and just go purely on science and technical review, because, we've got pipelines like this been in the ground for decades without incident. They were not installed under the same set of rigorous safety standards that the industry itself has adopted. These pipelines, nothing's infallible. No one nor anything is infallible. So that would be inappropriate to say that. But based on the standards this pipeline would be installed under, it's going to be as safe as you could possibly imagine. And if you're going to fear a project like this, there's a lot out there that you need to fear rather than this project, because, like I said, it'll be installed under the strictest standards and maintained under the strictest standards. Technology that didn't even exist decades ago, where we were installing lines just like this all across the country.
Well, listen, Marty, here's the bottom line, okay? We got to get this energy to Central and Southeast Virginia in order to get jobs, manufacturing, progress, in order to keep the naval base that we have, in order to keep the carriers coming in. We have to have the energy. There's only a couple of ways: pipeline, trucks, train, right?
Yes, and pipelines have proved to be so much safer than either one of those other alternatives.
Right.
And yes, we do need the gas. With 95% of the gas that's going to be in this pipeline is already called for.
Right.
Just to meet the demands that we know are there. So This is not one of those build it and they will come. This is something that we know is needed right now, and the gas that's going to be passing through this pipeline is already claimed by the power companies to fire up the gas power plants that they've converted from coal, which, by the way, reduced their carbon emission by 50%. I mean, you're talking half of what the carbon emission was. So if you have an environmental concern about these projects, certainly gas is a wonderful alternative to coal.
It's interesting that you say, Marty Williams, you said it's not like build it and they will come, like a lot of projects out there. If you just make it, construct it, somehow manufacturers will move in. It's almost the opposite. It's like if you don't build it, they will leave. That's the problem.
Well, that is what you're facing. We're already running up against that. But certainly there are, this nation, I think, just spoke pretty loud in the last election that, we want these manufacturing jobs back to the extent that we can support them. Well, affordable energy is is a big factor in a location of a manufacturing plant. And if we can't provide them reliable and affordable energy, well, they're certainly not coming here regardless of who tweets what. So this is desperately needed to hold on to what we have and hopefully build some for the future. But you can't ask manufacturing facilities to move into regions where you don't have reliable and cost-effective power for them.
Look, you're absolutely correct. You have to get these done. Crystallize for us right now. We're with former state senator, Republican in Virginia, the 1st District, Marty Williams. This is the district basically that's now represented by Monty Mason.
Yes.
Marty, crystallize for us. We keep trying to get our hands around this. What's the opposition that is holding this up now? We know we got the George Soros bust-in paid protesters that do this all over the United States. But as far as legitimate opposition stopping this pipeline from being finished, what is it?
Well, I think you've got a lot of the opposition is based on location, and it's based on those counties and landowners that are going to experience direct impacts from it. And I have a tremendous amount of sympathy for their position. If I owned a farm, felt that it had great historic value, and you were going to come through, I'm certain that I would much rather have it over the other side of the hill. So that's just a natural opposition that's going to grow from whatever you do in terms of delivering a product like this, where you need right away. But the environmental opposition, it reminds me of a reservoir that we tried to build when I was vice mayor of Newport News. The opposition, I think, a lot of times, they don't coalesce around that this project is bad for the environment, although that's the talking points they try to use. It's really anything about that allows growth. Anything. I mean, we were going to build a reservoir up there that would provide water for proposed growth.
Right.
Well, the environment was going to be better off after we built the reservoir than it was before we built it, because we were going to establish, 10-to-1 a wetlands mitigation. I mean, you were going to have more wetlands, 10 times more wetlands than you had before they built the reservoir.
Makes no sense. I mean,
certainly the reservoir itself is a huge retention basin, so it was going to hold the stream water, allow it to desilt and allow it to clean up before it was ever released into the river. I mean, so don't give me that jab that we were going to destroy the environment. It was all about more power, more water, more of these facilities allow more people to live here.
Right.
And that's I think that is at the base of what many times on a project like this, the environmentalists go up in arms about.
Here's the problem with them is, I'm sensitive to some of their concerns, but they oppose
So am I.
But they oppose everything, Marty. And what happens when you get in an environment where you oppose everything, you lose your credibility. If it's a basin, if it's a reservoir, if it's a stream, if it's a road, they oppose everything. And so wears down after a while and they're not credible. It's like when you're involved with somebody and they're a contrarian and it's like whatever you're talking about, they're taking the opposite position on it. Doesn't matter what it is, right? You've met those people. They're just
I've met them often.
Right. It doesn't matter what, and it could change from one day to the next. It's just they're going to be the opposite. After a while, they're not interesting. And so you stop engaging with them because it's not intellectually stimulating, because they're going to take the opposite position no matter what. That's just stupid.
Look at the recent wind farm they did off the New England coast up there. It took them 8 years to permit it.
Unbelievable.
8 years. Sound, renewable, sustainable energy at a high cost. The utility companies that buy into that, their ratepayers pay it, and their shareholders suffer for it, but they do it.
Yep.
But yet you're going to fight them on that too, because really it's all about, we don't want more power.
No, you're right.
And we just have to wake up to the fact that, I think the environmental community does an injustice when they fight projects like that.
You're right.
Because there's plenty that they should be fighting. There's plenty of incidents out there, and there's plenty of opportunities for them to engage and really save the country from some potential disasters.
Absolutely.
I think it's out there every day for them.
All right, so we're with Marty Williams, former Republican state senator, 1st District in Virginia. Marty, bottom line this for us, when is this going to get done, do you think?
Well, I would hope in the next 12 months they're under construction.
Right. So
I think that the application is in.
Right.
The review from the EPA has been released, and the NEPA study, and I think it's accurate, and I think they're certainly able to mitigate the issues that were identified. And I would just hope now that agencies, review the returns. Dominion, of course, the pipeline company will respond to the concerns that they're able to mitigate, which are all of them. And they turn the permit around very soon and release it for construction, because every day is another day without it. And the costs go up, and that cost is, like I said, borne by the ratepayers and borne by the shareholders.
You got that, man. Hey, I'm out of time. I want to thank Marty Williams for being with us, and we got to get this pipeline going. Marty, I'm encouraged that you think we're going to get this going within 12 months, start the construction on it. Marty Williams, former Republican state senator from the Newport News area. Marty, thanks for being with us. We'll have you back.
Thank you, John.
Thank you so much.